And I have two questions. There's been concerns about how quickly Netflix can add subscribers outside the United States. And can you tell us how has Netflix done in adding customers in Asia? And when do you expect significant revenue contributions from the region to materialize? And our second question is, do you anticipate any material impact from Brexit on Netflix's business going forward? Thank you.
Yes, our competitors have many concerns about our growth around the world. We're now over 80 million members, and the more that we grow around the world, the more content that we can add. But what we've seen, for example, in the United States, where we've been streaming for almost 10 years, is that we've grown from nothing to over 40 million. And at the same time, our competitor HBO has not shrunk, but instead has grown from about 30 to 35 million. And so it's a great proof point that the internet helps create better experiences for consumers, and that many of the different providers will grow. And so we hope that what will happen is, as we grow, other companies also grow, and the consumer is better served with incredible shows. And then on Brexit, it's too early to tell.
My first question I would like to ask to Mr. Hastings. Yesterday we had the opportunity to meet and talk a little bit with the Netflix celebs, and Ruby Rose mentioned that even in terms of scenes that required nudity or exposure, she said that she felt a lot of pride in taking part in the overall production, even with those scenes, because of the quality of the contents. In Korea, one of the main issues on hand, I believe, is related to ratings, which in Korea, the Korea Media Ratings Board is in charge of. And because as a result of the ratings, Netflix shows, which are also included as those to be rated, ended up with either putting mosaic portions in parts of the scenes or have some blurred scenes. And so for Netflix members, this tends to kind of create either frustration or lack of credibility in Netflix shows as a consequence of this. So in your opinion, is there any way to overcome this situation, or have you had any issues with this ratings?
Can I take this? In every country around the world, we comply with the local government standards. And that's true here in Korea, which includes sometimes blurring certain scenes. But it's very minimal, and there's no cutting of the scenes. There's just an occasional blurring. And really this reflects the societal standards, and it's applied to other SVOD and broadcast services also. So the government here and in other places applies the standards equally, and we comply with them. So we don't hear about it much from consumers. What we hear about is, thanks for bringing these great shows, because they're used to the occasional blurring in the content.
So I have two questions for you. On the way over to the venue, I actually received a couple of questions from my Facebook friends, and based upon that, I've just selected two. One is that it seems that the competitiveness of Netflix as a content provider in the Asian market is not very strong, relatively speaking to other competitors. So what kind of plans do you have in place to strengthen your competitiveness here in the Asian market? Do you have plans to, for example, produce original content in Asia for the Asian market? And the second question is that the Netflix poster, one of the comments that I have received is that the Netflix poster is not very sophisticated or high quality compared to what you see in other countries, the poster that you see here in Korea. So are there any plans to change that?
I think it means catalog.
We're very pleased with the Netflix service. In terms of the local productions, I think we covered that on stage. And then in terms of the catalog of content, it's always growing. We continue to add more and more shows. So I would say to your Facebook followers, check back in with Netflix it's continuing to improve in the catalog.
So I have several questions. Do you have any? Are there any other Asian movie directors and maybe Chinese movie directors that you're looking at for possible investment? And one of the things that the K-drama, one of the countries that K-drama is very large is China, which Netflix does not have a service. So I feel like that might be a big downside for the Korean creators who might be looking to make K-drama for Netflix. So what's your plan to cater to Chinese markets? And lastly, racial diversity issue was pretty big in Hollywood this year, and I've noticed that a lot of Netflix original series have many Asian casts. Do you think Netflix could be a driving force, or maybe bring some more diversity in Hollywood or US TV screens?
Hi. So I'll take your last question first on diversity. I'm very proud, and we're all very proud, that Netflix shows are among the most diverse in the world. Is it be Marco Polo, Master of None, which have got enormous Asian cast, and shows that are being watched and loved around the world. So this is what and really going back to Orange is the New Black, where you start seeing faces and sexes and sizes of people that you don't typically see on television. And in every one of our shows, I've got a very high level of diversity, and we think accurately reflects the population, not just the view of typical Hollywood casting. So we're absolutely doing well and pushing to do even better in terms of diversity for the world. For China, I know China is a very important part of the business model for K-drama, sometimes realizing even more revenue for their K-drama in China than they're realizing in Korea today. And we realize that when we work our deals. So in many cases, we're buying the rights for K-drama world, like Descendants of the Sun, will start later this summer on Netflix, all throughout the US, Canada, and Latin America, by way of example. And we continue to look at China as an opportunity. It's a very complicated one, as you know, and we continue to work to see if we can open up China eventually for Netflix.
For you. I actually downloaded the Netflix app today on my way here, but in terms of the Korean content, I saw that there were only older movies that were on the app as of yet. So I'd like to ask, in terms of increasing the number of Korean content, such as movies, by the end of this year, what are your plans? How?
Well, I can tell you we add programming to Netflix in Korea and everywhere in the world every week, so the library continues to grow. It is true that when we launch in any new territory, that the area that is not as strong is the local programming, because we use our time here to learn the market better than we can from far away. So not just studying box office and television ratings to see what Korean audiences watch, but obviously seeing what they watch on Netflix. So it helps us make better investments in local programming, and you see that as we become more and more centered around what local audiences are enjoying. And that will be a combination of programming that airs on broadcasters here, movies that are produced for theaters and come to us in later windows. But the thing we're most excited about is the original production that we'll be launching exclusively on Netflix from Korea for Korea, but also for the world. So the opportunity, I think, is enormous. So when I think about this country and its fast broadband and its hunger for great television and great movies, the opportunity, we think, is very, very big relative to anywhere else in the world.
I'd like to ask a question about your fee structure. Because it's unlimited viewing with a monthly subscription fee, it means that no matter how many contents a person views, it doesn't really increase the revenue for you, or maybe for the content provider that you have an agreement with. So I'd like to ask about what is the nature of the agreement between the content provider and yourself. Do they have any, let's say, dissatisfaction about the fact that even though the viewers view a lot of content, that they don't get any increase?
We're just like a television network. We license the same as all television networks, so there's no dissatisfaction.
If I could just add that, the people who are making movies and television for Netflix are among the most in-demand actors, writers, directors in the world. So to do that, we have to structure deals that are very competitive with all those other outlets, and we've been able to do that by working on those deals, being able to give those creators a global audience and compensate them as if they had been released in any other model.